Nigerian children is a task that must be accomplished. But how has it been with the efforts aimed at achieving this objective? And that's where we anchor today's edition of Weekend File. Good evening and welcome to the program. The Universal Basic Education Program was introduced by the federal government in 1999 to reduce the level of illiteracy, accelerate national development, and improve standard of education. Basic Education Program, in line with national policy on education, covers formal compulsory schooling consisting of 6 years of elementary and 3 years of junior secondary education, culminating in 9 years of uninterrupted schooling. There has been an appreciable improvement in basic education program since it started, but it has been marginal considering its span of almost 2 decades. That's according to some experts, by the way. They also cited the fact that in 2015, Nigeria ranked 103 out of 118 countries in UNESCO's Education for All Development Index, which takes into account universal primary education and gender parity. Currently, Nigeria possesses the largest population of out-of-school children, and that is largely blamed on perceived challenges facing universal basic education program, namely lack of adequate funding, misappropriation of available funds, lack of trained personnel, and poor planning. These challenges, no doubt, stand against fulfilling the UBE's objective and purpose. Tonight, we'll put all of this into perspective as Weekend File interrogates the Universal Basic Education Program and development of primary education in Nigeria. Thank you for choosing to stay with us tonight on the show. My name is Kirian Umayo, and this is Weekend File, where we tackle national issues. First, and now the news. We begin with this story. President Muhammadu Buhari says, in this digital age where physical borders no longer exist, to protect even the most secured cooperation amongst several sovereign nations is no longer a choice but absolute necessity. He said the only way to overcome what he calls predatory and divisionary forces is for all well-meaning nations to work together for greater good of humanity. The president said this while addressing the World Economic Forum on Middle East and North Africa on the shores of the Dead Sea in Jordan. State House correspondent Adam Sambo has that report.
The Arab world, comprising the Middle East and North Africa, is a region of two contrasting systems that feature a dynamic private sector as well as a bloated public sector, with economies that are both opened and close-controlled, thereby facing a mixed reality of wealth sitting side by side with poverty.
Hello, bonjour, hola, ni hao.
This economic forum, entitled Building New Platforms of Cooperation, is therefore aimed at charting the best way forward towards achieving economic growth and job creation, entrepreneurship and innovation, as well as environmental management in the greater interest of the nearly 400 million people in the region.
Remember that what you achieve together will be vital to the future we all share.
And I am deeply convinced that there is no other way to deal with global challenges than with a smart, evidence-based global response organized in a multilateral way to benefit all.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who is a special guest of honor at the event, said there is no region now feeling the full impact of the significant shifts the world is now experiencing on many fronts, like the Middle East and Africa. He said while the region is experiencing the highest growth rates in the world, it is unfortunately playing host to some of the deadliest conflicts in recent history, occasioned by terrorism and insurgency.
We must ask ourselves how we, as a region, got to this point. I strongly believe that the lack of socio-economic inclusion was the root cause of many challenges we are experiencing in this new world without borders. My personal view is stability and sustainability can only be achieved through inclusive economic growth and enhanced cooperation among nations.
Africa and the Middle East, the president also emphasized must focus on policies that will deliver shared economic prosperity for all their citizens. He said with the available resources, the people and markets, more can be done, especially on trade and investment.
We are determined to industrialize Nigeria, leveraging our comparative advantage. The Middle East is a natural partner. Our new inclusive and diversified Nigeria is definitely open to business. We must identify how we can work together.
President Buhari said, as friends and allies, countries in the region must not only cooperate and leverage on their relative strengths, but remain open to building new platforms of cooperation. Over 1,000 leaders of government, business, civil society, faith, and academia from over 50 countries are participating at the forum, expected to end on Sunday. From the shores of the Dead Sea in Jordan, about 400 meters below sea level, this is Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Thank you, Adamu. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed Nigeria's appreciation to the Kingdom of Jordan for genuinely supporting efforts in fighting terrorism and insurgency in the country, saying the investment in the nation's peace and security will always be remembered. The president has said this at a bilateral engagement with the Jordanian King Abdullah bin al-Hussein on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum at the Dead Sea. State House correspondent Adam Sambo again reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari said the international support Nigeria received, particularly from Jordan, showed commitment to making the world a more harmonious and peaceful place where people can live and pursue their interests without fear. He said with such support and encouragement, the country has made significant progress in the fight against Boko Haram, as all the territories under their control before his coming to power have been recaptured and thousands held against their will liberated. The president, however, made a case for Nigeria and Jordan to strengthen trade relations by exploring areas of competitive advantage for the benefit of the two countries and their peoples. King Abdullah of Jordan said his country will continue to support Nigeria with the needed hardware towards ensuring that the global war against terrorism is successfully prosecuted. He said the long-term bilateral relations between both countries will be strengthened through innovative ideas that will benefit their citizens. President Buhari also met with the Minister of Energy, Industry and Mineral Resources of Saudi Arabia, Khalid Al-Fali, assuring him that Nigeria remains committed to the terms of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, especially on the quota system. The Saudi Arabian minister, who congratulated the president on his re-election for a second term in office, delivered to him a special message from the Saudi monarch, King Salman.
Saudi Arabia is willing to have a very, very good cooperation with Nigeria in both infrastructure development, oil refining, and agriculture. And they have extended an invitation to Mr. President to visit Saudi Arabia with his team to look at the details of all this. And I believe it's very important, and they are very serious about it.
President Buhari is expected to proceed to Dubai, United Arab Emirates, on Sunday. From the Dead Sea, Jordan, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has reassured Nigerians that ending banditry remains a key priority of his administration, and he will do whatever it takes to ensure the country's security system confronts these public enemies with merciless determination. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, while reacting to the recent escalation of banditry and kidnappings in some parts of the country. President Buhari, while condoling with all those affected by the unfortunate events, described himself as one of the unhappiest leaders in the world. President Buhari added that he understands the pains of the victims and their families who have been traumatized and impoverished by constant ransom demands by bandits. The president also emphasized that protecting the citizens of the country is one of the primary functions of his administration and have ordered rapid and robust deployment of troops to all the areas currently under attack from the bandits. President Buhari called on communities where banditry is active to support and cooperate with the security agencies, particularly the recently launched Operation Poor Father to battle bandits and kidnappers. He appealed to communities to report suspicious movements of the bandits into their areas, considering the fact that intelligence is critical to detecting, frustrating, neutralizing, and defeating the criminals. In other security issue, the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole has neutralized some Islamic State of West African province terrorists at Tumbun Alpha, a small settlement about 4 kilometers west of Tumbun Alura on the fringes of Lake Chad in the northern part of Borno State. A statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramola, says the airstrikes were conducted on 5th of April 2019 on the heels of credible intelligence reports indicating that some IWAP leaders and members had assembled for a meeting under a group of trees near a prominent makeshift structure within the settlement. Accordingly, the Air Task Force scrambled a NAF Alpha jet to attack the location. The bombs from the aircraft recorded hits on the target areas, resulting to significant damage to surrounding structures, with a large fire observed and several of the terrorists neutralized. The NAF, operating in synergy with ground forces, will sustain its operations against the terrorists in the northeast of Nigeria. And now, the ongoing transformation of a foreign mission has necessitated the Federal Minister of Foreign Affairs to seek for an increase in its 2019 budget proposal. Now, defending the budget estimate of the ministry before the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, the Permanent Secretary, Mustafa Suleiman, says the move is to enable the country equip its foreign missions effectively. National Assembly correspondent Abdullahi Aminu has the report.
Documents on the 2018 budget expenditure by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs revealed that 86% capital release was made to the main ministry, while its agencies received 60% of the funds, with 70% being overhead. Level of implementation of the budget, according to the Permanent Secretary, stands at 65%, and that of the agencies at 20%, calling for more legislative support to strengthen the country's foreign missions.
There is a reduction of 9,688 million, which is as a result of the sharp cut in the capital budget for 2019.
For the sake of Nigerians, just bring it, then we put that into consideration.
Chairman, National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, Abdullahi Mukhtar Mohammed, also defended the Commission's 2019 budget proposal, calling on the senators to ensure interagency collaboration in the aviation industry and the provision of safety facilities at various departure points in order to improve confidence and security of the pilgrims.
We had instances where innocent people get drugs built into their luggage unknown to them.
Meanwhile, 3 ambassadorial nominees were screened by the committee. The nominees responded to questions on efforts they will put in projecting the image of the country abroad. From the National Assembly, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
To effectively implement the federal government's industrialization drive, the Federal Ministry of Industry plans to introduce some strategic pillars to facilitate the actualization of the dream. This was part of the submissions by the ministry at a budget defense before the Senate Committee on Industry. National Assembly correspondent Aminu Abdullahi reports.
7,961 million naira capital release was made to the Federal Ministry of Industry in 2018, representing 41% of the 19.4 billion naira capital appropriation. Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Edet Akpan, told the senators that being the ministry that has the responsibility of providing the enabling environment for investors, increased budgetary allocation will help in that regard. The ministry's 2019 budget proposal stands at 11 billion naira, while the National Automotive Design and Development budget focuses on engaging experts in skill acquisition and training young Nigerians.
Is geared towards further repositioning and consolidating the gains already achieved in revamping the nation's economy for sustained growth and development.
We're in the process of training 3,200 youth across the country in mechatronics so that these Nigerian youth will better understand these new types of technologies.
Whatever we have told you now is not the end. As it's going through this and we're making other observations, we must bring them to a notice so that we will furnish us with those information.
Meanwhile, Managing Director, Federal Housing Authority, Professor Muhammad Al-Amin, seeks increase in 2019 budget estimate and possible legislative backing for actualization of the federal government's mass housing project at affordable price.
2018 had been a very busy year for us, and we were able to close all the targets that we have put for ourselves, and we are getting results.
We have had great improvements in the activities of the Federal Housing Authority due to your participation in the National Mass Housing Program.
The senators appreciated the agency's target towards addressing the country's housing deficit by acquiring 800 hectares of land in the Federal Capital Territory and other programs. From the National Assembly, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
Now, ahead of the 2019 World Health Day in Nigeria, an awareness walk around major streets in Abuja has been held, organized by the World Health Organization in Nigeria. It was joined by partners in World Health Organizations in the country and health correspondents. The theme of this year's celebration is universal health coverage, everyone, everywhere. It is aimed at ensuring that everyone obtains the care they need when they need it, right in the heart of the society.
The World Health Day falls on 7th of April every year, and here in Nigeria we decided to commemorate it with a walk starting today at 6th, and then to crown it up by the Minister of Health with a press briefing that will take place on 8th.
Okay, what's the significance of this annual celebration?
And the significance is that it is used every year with a different theme to promote the holistic nature of health.
Basi Taiban reports that the day, which is celebrated every 7th of April, also marks the anniversary of World Health Organization. Now, ahead of the... Now to the next story. The Buhari Media Organization has described the silence by the Independent National Electoral Commission, the PDP's claim to have had access to each server, as worrisome and frightening. In a statement signed by Niyo Akinsoju and Cassidy Madueke, the group noted that the claim by the PDP was too grave, a criminal confession for INEC to ignore. The BMO noted that silence by INEC is not golden, hence the need for urgent action to clear all doubts. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari sends warm greetings to Mr. Waheed Olagunju, former acting managing director of Bank of Industry Limited and executive director of Small and Medium Enterprises, on his 60th birthday. A statement by the special advisor to the president, media and publicity, Femi Adesina, the president celebrates with all family members, friends, and associates of Olagunju, while congratulating him for always making himself available for service to the nation and humanity, which is certainly motivated by his fear of God and sense of patriotism. As Olagunju turned 60, the president prays that the Almighty God will grant him long life, good health, and strength to continue serving the country. Muslim leaders in the country have been urged not to relent in calling on their followers to always be law-abiding and tolerant for the development of the Ummah and the country in general. The FCT Minister Mohammed Musa Bello said this while representing President Muhammadu Buhari at the 43rd Maulud of Sheikh Ibrahim at National Stadium, Abuja. Abdullahi Musa Suleja has the report.
The Maulud is to commemorate the birth of Sheikh Ibrahim Inyas, a great Senegalese Islamic scholar who propagated the religion of Islam in the entire West Africa and beyond. The Sheikh, who took after another Islamic scholar from the same Senegal, Sheikh Ahmad Tijani, the founder of Tijaniya movement, has over 60 million followers in Nigeria alone. The FCT minister called on Islamic leaders to leverage on the numerical strength of the followers to always preach for a better society. Musa Bello said the Sheikh virtues must be emulated, especially in the area of education, for the development of intellectual capacity of the Ummah. The Maulud was attended by different foreign nationals. Sheikh Ibrahim Inyas is so revered by his followers who pay visits to his tomb from time to time in Kaolaha, Senegal, as a mark of honor. Abdullahi Musa Suleja, NTA News.
Islamic faithful converged on the ancient city of Kano to celebrate the birth of Sheikh Ahmad Tijani, a renowned Islamic cleric and founder of a Tijaniya movement in West Africa. Abdullahi Mustafa has the report.
Traffic gridlock is a common phenomenon in Kano, being a commercial hub and most populous state in Nigeria. However, the coming of followers of Tijaniya movement from all parts of the country deteriorates the situation. All roads leading to Sani Abacha Stadium, their meeting point, became impassable due to human and vehicular traffic. The gathering was to commemorate the birth of the 20th century revered scholar and leader of Tijaniya movement, Sheikh Ibrahim Inyas. Prominent scholars from Nigeria, Senegal, and Morocco presented lectures on the life and time of the Senegalese scholar and his contribution to the propagation of Islam and principles of Tijaniya Sufi order. Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje commended the peaceful conduct of Tijaniya followers and their role in the education and development of the country. Other speakers were Emir Muhammad Sanusi II, member of the House of Representatives-elect Abdurrahman Kaw Sumaila, who delivered a message of goodwill from President Muhammadu Buhari. Sheikh Ibrahim Inyas was born in the year 1900, died in 1975. In Kano, Abdullahi Mustafa, NTA News.
You are watching Weekend File on the network service of the NTA, and today we are dealing with the Universal Basic Education Program and development of primary education, the foundational level of all other education. We will learn more from our correspondent's report after the break.
Marketing of broadcast media products requires special skills which can only be acquired through training and experience. NTA TV College Jos is therefore organizing an intensive 3-week course on modern trends in broadcast media marketing. The course will equip participants with necessary skills to deal with contemporary marketing challenges and competition in the broadcast media. It is an essential course for marketers in the broadcast media to sharpen their skills and improve their capacities. Date, 23rd April to 10th May 2019. Venue, NTA Television College Refuge Jos. Course fee, 100,000 naira per participant, accommodation inclusive. For more inquiries, please contact us on 0803 314 4383 or 0806 980 9807. NTA TV College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
We thank you for staying with us on the program. And now we begin. As part of the efforts to revitalize primary school and teacher education in Edo, Delta, and the Ekiti states, the various governments are carrying out massive reforms. These reforms include the introduction of new teaching models intended to strengthen infrastructure in the respective states. Ayodeji Odebwa reports. Well, that report is not yet ready. Now, efforts by Kano State government to address the issue of enrollment in primary schools have continued to defy solutions as the state is leading in the area of out-of-school children. However, this did not deter authorities in adopting various strategies to change the narrative. Fatima Sanusi Karaye reports that girl child education suffered the most devastating effect, with 60% of the total figure of those who lack access to primary education in the state.
Kano State is among the states with high number of out-of-school children. Statistics available reveal that over 3 million children between the ages of 6 and 16 are out of school, and that number is expected to double by 2020 if stringent measures are not put in place. What is more worrisome is that 60% of the total number of out-of-school children are girls. 10-year-old Fidausi is among millions of out-of-school children who travels 30 to 40 kilometers daily to sell granules, constantly in danger of being abused and endangering her life on streets.
But government is addressing the issue through so many ways. For instance, government has created or established education promotion committees in all the 44 local government areas of the state with a view to engendering community participation, because education for all is the responsibility of all.
At Rumawa community, one of the oldest settlements in Kano, with about 15,000 people, this community has no access to the universal basic education, despite its proximity to the metropolis. But the community came together and built a school out of stalls and sticks. What is amazing here is the level of enrollment and eagerness to learn by these children. While the Rumawa community continue to push for their rights, Fidausi and millions like her who are deprived access to education on account of their indigent background may continue to live on streets. In Kano, Fatima Sanusi Karaye, NTA News.
Now, to provide qualitative education, particularly in the primary level, a robust infrastructural development and provision of up-to-date learning aids are very crucial. Jane Ojukwu examines the state of primary school infrastructure in Lagos and now reports.
Key to capacity building of individuals for self-reliance and national development. Against this backdrop, the foundation, which is the primary school level, is the most crucial as it sets the tone for pupils to acquire the necessary footing upon which their academic aspirations depend. Due to the necessity of basic education, it is imperative that the standard must not be compromised in terms of quality. This throws up the question, what is the state of infrastructure in some of the schools in Lagos?
In my own community, the primary school there are good, and the government are really trying. They are renovating some classes that is bad.
Lagos State government should look into the instructions and the way they build those primary schools so that they can improve it more.
When I went to the primary school, I was attracted by the infrastructure. The infrastructure was great. My primary school has a library. My primary school has a nature studies center. And that's why I said that we need to build the primary school infrastructure. We have to ensure that the state and local government that are responsible for the primary schools, that they do their job.
And there is a need to lay very solid foundation at the primary school level, because really a lot of your education that you get actually starts from that primary school. If the primary education is wobbly, then it becomes problematic when the person gets to secondary school and eventually to the university.
How has Lagos State, under whose purview the primary education falls, fared in ensuring that its public primary schools are adequately equipped to provide qualitative education?
We will continue to increase our budgetary allocation to education and health, because those are the critical sectors that we also need to look at. Of course, beyond infrastructure and all of it.
NTA News visited the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB, but its chairman, Mr. Gani Oshokbenyi, declined comments. In Lagos, Jane Ojukwu, NTA News.
And now we take you back to Benin, where Ayodejo Dewa says reforms are taking place in Edo, Delta, and Ekiti states.
Those states, apart from infrastructural development, institutional reforms, they are also providing educational materials to the teachers to enhance competence.
The structuring process is to have a single level of education, and we have different campuses. Then those of them who fit into the different campuses would be absorbed in them, while those who are qualified to remain in the university will be retained by the entire university.
They need things like visual, things that they can see, visual aids. Like the internet, they need the computer training. Then the one that bothers me most is that of a higher institution. The amenities are not enough. That's why you find out that lecturers are always going on strike.
Government is trying, and we also want them to try harder.
Also in Ekiti State, Kehinde Durodola reports that in order to revitalize education and realize the objective of the Universal Basic Education Program, quality teacher education, talent discovery, and vocational training should be emphasized. He says this is the consensus of key players in the industry.
If vocational and technical education are inculcated into our curriculum, I'm sure it can reduce the level of dropouts. We need competent teachers. We need good equipment for this to function well in the schools.
And from Delta State, Kirsten Peters reports that the government of Delta State is keeping faith with the program to ensure the functionality and sustainability of the program.
Delta State, we have a very strong synergy with UBEC, Abuja, through our State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB. To this end, we have made sure that our counterpart fundings are up to date.
There should be constant in-service training for the UBE teachers.
In Benin, Adogbeji Ojegba, NTA News.
There is significant increase in schools enrollment in Borno State, especially that of girl child, as Universal Basic Education Board in 2018-2019 academic year registered over 200,000 pupils in public schools across the state. There is no doubt that this is a result of improved security situation and quantum of intervention programs in the education sector, having suffered great setback in the years of insurgency. Naomi Boako reports.
Education is among the worst hit sectors in Borno State, where components of basic teaching and learning centers were affected, with teachers killed or threatened to abandon classes. Today, distressed structures have been renovated and new ones constructed, in addition to provision of over 30 ultramodern schools established by Borno State government through the UBE intervention program of the federal government. This has tremendously increased school enrollment and retention of pupils and students, while the mega schools are ready for commencement of service.
Enrollment into these mega schools, 60% for the girls and 40% for the boys in terms of enrollment into the new mega schools. And then we also provide platform for the IDPs to have education.
Universal Basic Education Borno has recorded huge successes in providing enabling environment and quality education to pupils and students owing to the state government's ability to settle up to date its counter-funding.
Borno State, virtually in a state of war, we are able to access our own matching grant.
Initiatives such as the State Education Program Investment Project funded by the World Bank was put in place to complement effort of government in ensuring standard of education is maintained through provision of instructional materials and training teachers across the state.
We have about 33 JSS, that UBE schools, junior secondary school, and we have 39 primary school. In all the schools, our government they are doing their best.
In Maiduguri, Naomi Abuku, NTA News.
Thank you, Naomi. And now in the next segment of the program, we'll be engaging our guests for the issues on the Universal Basic Education Program. Do stay with us.
Oga, open your fuel tank.
Hold on, please. Let me calm down.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Hope you've rubbed off your meter.
Oh, Oga, we no longer tamper with our fuel dispense meter because it is cheating and corruption. I will always sell fuel to all customers at the correct amount because change begins with me.
Nice one.
Yes, sir. How much, Oga?
Fill up.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. Or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store or App Store. NTA, you can beat the rich.
And joining me now in the studio for the discussion segment of the program is Sylvester Onoja. He's an educationist, former principal, King's College, Lagos, and former Commissioner of Education, Kogi State, and one-time director at the Federal Ministry of Education. So you're welcome to Weekend File.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's been a while because I know I've had you on this show some time ago, and it's good to have you back again.
Thank you.
All right, let's begin by asking you to tell Nigerians the place of primary education in the development of education in general in Nigeria.
Well, anywhere in the world, primary education is the foundation of education. That's where you lay the foundation for the development of the human being. So, is critical. And since primary education was introduced in Nigeria in 1843, that was the first primary education in Nigeria. St. Andrew's School, Badagry, was the first one. Of course, there was the Hope Waddell Institute in 1841 that actually was only a domestic training center. So real primary school started in 1843 in Nigeria. And since then, education has been moving forward. And unfortunately, is now being bastardized. Education is supposed to be the foundation. You talk about infrastructure. The most important infrastructure in life is the infrastructure of the mind. That's where it starts. So are we laying the infrastructure of the mind on the young ones so that we can start well? Yeah. That is what is important.
All right, now, in pursuit of the philosophy behind primary education, I recall vividly that in the 70s, UPE was introduced. Right, and again in 1999, UBE came on board, that's Universal Basic Education, just to address the issue of that foundational education in Nigeria. Now, how has the primary education fared, in your opinion, having been in the educational sector for over 35 years or more?
Well, the story of education in Nigeria, and particularly the story of education from 1960 to date, it's most unfortunate in terms of planning and execution. Because the right people have not been in charge of education, there has been no proper planning. The British left a wonderful plan for education. And you talked about the UPE. UPE was excellent planning under Yakubu Gowon. And that was the last plan we really had for education in 1975, when, it was poorly executed. But the plan was solid. It was supposed to produce teachers. Unfortunately, all sorts of people who were not intended to be teachers came in. And that was the beginning of the problem that we have had with primary education. The people who were taught under the UPE were actually not quite prepared to teach. And like we say, all crash programs produce crash results. And the UPE program produced crash results in this country. And that is why we are where we are. We missed it from then, and we have not gotten it right.
But one would have thought that having missed it then, that UBE, came back, with a kind of new blood that ought to have been injected into the education system, especially at that level of education. In your view, what did UBE do? What did it do, since 1999 till now? If you have been observing the activities of UBE with respect to primary education in Nigeria.
UBE was very well intended. UBE had a beautiful program. The problem was with execution. Not properly executed. And that's what we have with a lot of planning for education in this country, is at the problem of execution. The best men are not there to execute. The most available people have been brought into the system. So it's been well planned. But what are the level of execution? That is the problem that we have.
Now, let's put this planning into perspective. What kind of planning are you talking about? Is it in terms of executing programs? Because invariably, if you want to up the ante in terms of primary education, what comes to mind is infrastructure. The school has to be there. There has to be other facilities for teaching, and all that. So what, in your view, was not really done? Because when you say it was not planned and all of that, but there's a plan going on, but is that the plan is not efficacious or something?
Well, there are two things in education. You either establish schools or you cite schools. Politics came into it. And instead of establishing schools, we started citing schools. What is the difference between citing schools and establishing schools? When you establish a school, it's like planting a flower. You water it, you nurture it. But when you have to cite for political reasons, because of the support that you have, schools that are cited are hardly ever funded. And they are not well-intentioned. They are not planned. And so what happened with the UP was that, well, good intention. But what about the teachers for the UPE program? What about the other people that were supposed to take charge of executing this and making sure that we have a valid and properly produced products? We didn't have them. Because there used to be, in the 70s, a course called education planning. It's no longer there. The people who are dedicated, who are committed to doing this, are no longer there. I'll take you back in history. You see, in 1960, when Nigeria was about to become independent, the British colonial government was in charge of education. But what they did, when they knew that politics was coming into it, there was Ajanwachuku was the Minister of Education from 1958 to 1965. In 1958, the British government appointed an educationist, a former principal of King's College, Mr. Gerald Bonton, as the federal advisor on education, so that he will have an input into how education is executed. Because they know that the professionals, the politicians that were coming, don't know anything about education, how to do it. But today, it's not a problem. That is the problem. We don't have people who are following up on execution. So the problem, the beautiful plans we have, is about execution. For example, you talk about the UB. Now, planning at the level of primary education or basic education in this country is supposed to be free and compulsory. Why are you talking about people out of school when there's a law that it is compulsory? Where is the political will? Why do we have so many people out of school? when there is a law that says it's compulsory. Where is it? Who is executing? Who is enforcing it? No, those things are not there. That's why we have the problem. Execution is our problem.
Okay, but because what we've read in recent times is just funding, lack of funding, and then misappropriation of available funds, then lack of quality teachers to teach in those schools. Now, when you talked about compulsory education, my mind just went to a video that went viral, sometime last week or 2 weeks ago, and that of Success Agebo, the little girl whose doggedness, led Nigeria into knowing that even the school where she is, have no reasonable infrastructure and all of that, and one begins to think about infrastructure and the need to have one. Sir, could you just let us know how best to approach the program? Because the program is in existence for now, and what is left undone is how to make use of what is in the master plan to see how we can accomplish the objective of ensuring that all Nigerian children are back to school, especially those below 10.
We have all sorts of plans in this country. We have no problem with plans. We have problem with execution of the plans that we have. And the only way you can do it is to bring knowledgeable and committed people to do it. Education has been politicized. All that you hear is a lot of lip service to education. People who are committed to education are not there. You go to the states, for example, the primary education or basic education is the responsibility of state and local governments. How many local governments are committed to education? How many local governments have teachers? I understand that there is a recent study that revealed that about 42% of the teachers that teach in certain parts of this country are not qualified. The local government education authorities are not recruiting qualified people. They are recruiting people who have left secondary school to teach because the wage bill is lower. Who are those who are not paid? Those who are not paid are teachers in primary schools. And other people have, the private schools have taken over in some parts of this country. And as far as I'm concerned, private schools are business centers to make money. Knowledge is not being distant. Some of the states have come, they have programs of free education. I agree with them entirely. The states are free of education. The schools are free of education. That is their concept of free education. So what are we doing? That there is education. The teachers that are knowledgeable are no longer in the classrooms. Our teacher training institutions are not funded. The people that go to teachers training institutions are those who have no other choice in life. The worst people are recruited into teacher training institutions to teach those who ought to know. We have teachers that have been produced that are completely analog. And they are supposed to teach digitally minded students. What is the future of this country without quality teachers? Before we can talk about educational development in this country, we must address our teacher training issues. The quality of teacher training is way down. And when you talk about statistics of this country, I must say it openly, that the statistics are statistics of largely a part of this country. A lot of it is Northern Nigerian statistics. What are our teachers, what are our local government chairmen, what are our governors doing about education? Should we now be insisting to pay lip service to education? The governors and the chairmen of local governments should take education seriously because there's no way we can go in this country without education.
And education is on the concurrent list, and we expect that the federal and state governments, should, of course, do the needful, to get this issue of primary education tackled. Now, observers are saying that the quality of the national school curriculum is being undermined, by generally low quality of teachers, which you have just harped on, who implement it, but which ultimately translates to low-level learning. Now, how can this issue of teachers be addressed? We talked about teacher training colleges. How can that be addressed? Because that's another aspect that is very, very pertinent.
to address the issues of education.
Yes.
The foundation of it is the quality of the teachers that we have. Who are those who go to teacher training colleges? Those are the people who really have nothing else to do.
But how do you know who is a teacher if you don't pass through?
Well, you go through teacher training institutions, but let us look at the quality of people. In other countries, the most qualified are those who go for teacher training. In Singapore, for example, it's much more difficult to find a place in a teacher training institution than to go to a university to read medicine or read law or read engineering. The best go for teacher training because the entire population of the country is dependent on the quality of the teachers that we have. There's no nation that can go beyond the quality of teachers. But we have politicized education. Everything is seen through the prism of politics. You cannot be a principal of a secondary school without considerations that has nothing to do with character and competence. You cannot be headmaster of a school unless you know somebody else who knows somebody. Merit must be made to count, and that is the only way. Education is about those who do not know teaching those who know. And education has only two purposes in life. Education is to teach you how to live, and education is to teach you how to earn a living. Those are the two main aims of education. And we are missing it. We miss it because the people who are committed, the teachers that are qualified, they are not there. The children are not learning. We have some kind of miseducation that is going on. And I've said several times, one of the ways you must make education meaningful in this country is that education should be treated like the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Health. You cannot be a minister of health unless you are a medical doctor. You cannot be a minister of
education,
of justice, unless you are a lawyer. What stops an educationist being a minister of education? And he didn't start. The first minister of education was Ajanwachukwu. He didn't. After Ajanwachukwu came Wenike Briggs. Wenike Briggs was not a teacher. After Wenike Briggs came A.Y. Eke. A.Y. Eke was not a teacher. After Eke came a lot of other people that were not teachers. What is wrong with appointing teachers to take charge of education? That is what is done in most of the countries. But nobody takes education seriously. We cannot solve the problem of this country, education in this country, if we only throw money at education. The federal government is only intervening. The basic education is the responsibility of states and local governments. So what the UBEC and other things, the federal government, is an intervention. So the federal government, as far as I'm concerned, is trying best to make sure that there's education in this country. But the state governors and chairman of local governments must take education as a point of responsibility. On the dining table of knowledge, you know, there are three people on the dining table: those who go to dine, those who are waiters, and those who serve. On the table of education, where do we want to be? Do we want to go as diners, or do we want to be there as servers, or do we want to be there as waiters? We must do something. We must do something. So all we are talking about quality of tertiary education is nonsense. If we do not have our primary basic education right, whatever we are doing after that is a waste of time.
Now, we have been told that Nigeria possesses the largest number of out-of-school children. What can be done to reverse the trend?
Well, we need the political will to get them back to school. We have the policy on education says it is compulsory. What are those people at that level doing? What are they doing? The federal government has intervened at the level of education. The states that get $1 billion for if they assess this. So what are they doing with it? If we do not do something about the out-of-school children, it's a time bomb. It's a time bomb. And let nobody be comfortable that you live in a country or a section of this country where out-of-school children is not a problem. If any part of this country is educationally underdeveloped, all of us are underdeveloped. So if you have about 14 million children out of school, so What does that mean? It's likely that the parents of those who are out of school are all themselves illiterate. All right? So that's what it's a serious situation that we must. Schools, history of schools all over the world had a missionary or religious background. And all the religions must come back to do something about education. The two religions, predominant religions in Nigeria, have a lot of respect for education. So what are we doing? We must do something about the out-of-school children. And as far as I'm concerned, we talk about new government house or infrastructure. The most important infrastructure is the infrastructure of the mind.
All right, at this juncture, I'd like to thank you immensely for sharing your world of experience, with us this evening on Weekend Fire. Thank you very much for coming. And I have been speaking with Sylvester Onoja, former principal of King's College, Lagos, and former commissioner for education, Kogi State, and of course, former director in the Federal Ministry of Education. Thank you once again for coming. Next for us now is the sports. Stay with us. Now, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. It is a popular saying. It is in view of this that the Naval Officers Sports Association has provided new sporting facilities to boost the physical and mental alertness of Noah Secondary School students in Karachi. Correspondent Najatu Tijani reports.
Sporting activities are key to healthy living and boosting psychomotive well-being of those who engage. This has attracted the attention of stakeholders at different levels on the need to invest more in sports as one of the key unifying factors among young Nigerians, especially those of school age.
Most of them will end up representing us outside, not only outside the school, but outside the country.
The students have no reason not to excel, not just in the academics, but also in extracurricular pursuits like sports.
The facilities provided include 4 blocks of a modern sports arena. For 16-year-old Louis, an SS3 student of the sciences in the school, the arena will make his dream of becoming the next Hakeem Olajuwon of basketball a reality.
With this, I feel that it will go a huge way in helping us with our intellectual abilities.
Members of the association, all mothers themselves with the welfare of the growing children at heart, say they believe that adopting sports will go a long way in curbing youth restiveness and social vices. Najatu Tijani.
And that's where we conclude tonight's edition of Weekend File. Let's do this again next Saturday when we come back with a fresh edition of the program. From all of us here, it's good night.